I remember going to school as a young teenager, being a kid, and talking about what happened in the NBA in the previous night. Oh my God, Paul George had 40. Oh my God, Jimmy Butler had 40. And that was it. We enjoyed those hoopers, we watched the highlights, we had fun with it. And I don't know if I got older, I don't know if I started paying more attention, I don't know if it's because I downloaded Twitter, but something kind of changed. All of a sudden, every time somebody has a game, the first thing that they're looking for is that field goal percentage. What did he shoot from the field? How many free throws did he take? I feel so good about this take that I have it in my Twitter bio. Field goal percentage is overrated. Go follow me on there if you want to, I'll probably follow you back. Now, every time I say this to somebody, the first thing that they tell me is that the only reason I'm saying this is because I am a Hawks fan and my franchise player is Trae Young, which I get it makes sense. Now, I want to take this back to one of my earlier videos on this channel and one of my most popular videos on this channel. I made a video about a year ago or maybe 18 months ago about Kobe Bryant being one of the most overrated players of all time. And one of my main points in that video was me talking about his field goal percentage. On his career, Kobe was at 44% from the field. Nowadays, when you see that number, the threshold is usually around 44% and under. We see that and we say he's inefficient. But we weren't calling Kobe inefficient. Kobe is one of the greatest scorers of our generation. On top of that, James Harden, career 44%. Allen Iverson, career 42.5%. These dudes are in a certain category of difficult shot taking and difficult shot making, and these dudes were able to win lots of games with their play styles. Kobe was able to win 5 championships. Just last year, Jalen Brunson went on a historic run in the playoffs where he put up 40 points in 4 straight basketball games because he had no other option. Now, if you were watching those games, did you ever feel like he was inefficient? I didn't, but according to what some of y'all like to say, he was. He was at 44% for the entire run where he averaged 32.5 points on 26 shots a game. And there's so many examples of that in playoff history and NBA history. When you're facing a cold-blooded killer that's going to get up shots and he's going to carry his team to a victory, that has to mean something. That doesn't make him any worse of a basketball player. We've gotten to the point to where certain players who are putting up all-time production are getting left out of all-star games and getting disrespected, all because of efficiency. Trae Young is currently averaging 23 points and 11.5 assists, and he's generating 51.6 points per game. The Hawks score 116 points per game. He is solely responsible for 44% of the Hawks' points and production. And this is not me pushing for him to be an all-star or twerking for my favorite player, because all those other guys very well deserve their spots, but I just think it's disingenuous to think that he sucks or he stinks. If you was telling me back in the day that James Harden wasn't one of the best scorers in the league, or Kobe Bryant wasn't one of the best scorers in the league because they had lower efficiency numbers, I would have looked at you crazy. Everybody would have looked at you crazy, but it don't feel like that no more. LaMelo Ball is currently averaging 28.2 points per game. It don't matter who you are, it don't matter how you get it. If you are averaging 28 points per game, you are a special talent. People don't just wake up and do that. It's cool for Allen Iverson, but it's a problem with LaMelo. But that's all good. That brings me into my next point. This is where it kind of gets a little bit nerdy. The reason that we want players to be quote-unquote efficient is because we want to get points on the board every time we're on the offensive side of the floor. We basically want to miss the least amount of shots possible on a possession-by-possession basis. But in reality, the missed shot disparity between a 48% shooter and a 43% shooter is one shot. Is one more missed shot. Now, if you don't get what I mean, let me explain it like this. We got 2 NBA players, right? On average, one shoots 8 for 16 every game. That's 50% from the field. We see 50% from the field and be like, oh my God, he's one of the most efficient players in the NBA. Now we got another player who's shooting 7 for 16 from the field. That is 43%. We see 43% and say, oh my God, he's so inefficient. In today's NBA, teams score approximately 1.13 points per possession. So for that one extra shot that you are missing and being called an inefficient player for, 1 point per possession opposed to the player that shoots 50%. We can also do this for 20 shots per game. One player might shoot 10 for 20 in the game, which is 50%, and another player might shoot 8 for 20 in the game. A 10% difference in field goal percentage is worth 2 extra missed shots, which is about 2 extra points per game for the defense. But you want to label that player inefficient, which I think is just wrong. Now, in reality, you never want your players shooting 40% from the field, but in the grand scheme of things, context is so important and it shouldn't be the end-all be-all when we're having these basketball discussions. So how do we get that context? How do we actually figure out who's an efficient scorer and who's not? Because field goal percentage is a lie. First, we have to talk about three-point frequency. Three-pointers are affected into field goal percentage when a 3 is worth more than a 2 and it's also a more difficult shot. Anthony Edwards is a good example of this. Due to the addition of Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards has had to take way more threes because the spacing is just not the same without having Cat. And as a result of that, I've seen people say that Anthony Edwards is washed and he's not the same player because his field goal percentage has went down. But in reality, his scoring efficiency is still exactly the same. And how do I know that? His true shooting number. Last year, he had a 57% true shooting percentage, and this year, that number is up at 59 despite his field goal percentage going down. True shooting is a stat that takes into account your free throws and your three-pointers. One player can shoot 6 for 12, have it be all 2s, and that means he had 12 points on 50%. But another player can shoot 4 for 12 on only 3s. He will have the same amount of points, the same amount of shots needed to get those points, but his field goal percentage will look bad, and people will say he had an inefficient night. Now, of course, people are going to see that he took mostly 3s, but in the grand scheme of things, people don't take into account the amount of three-pointers that certain players shoot. Now, for whatever reason, people do not like the true shooting stat, which is something I just don't understand. The fact that true shooting accounts for free throws makes some people so mad, and I just don't get it. What is the name of our game? Putting the ball in the basket. It don't matter how you do it, just do it. And right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going through this thing to where everybody is calling him a foul baiter, which already boosts his insane efficiency stats. But I hope this isn't news to you. Every elite scorer gets to the free throw line. It's what made James Harden's low field goal percentage years effective. It's what made Trae Young's low field goal percentage years effective. Getting to the line and foul baiting is something that every superstar needs to be able to do. And it got me wishing that players like Jalen Green, Tyrese Halliburton, and Jalen Johnson could just get to the line more, because that takes your game to the next level. We go on offense to score. A free throw is worth a point. If you can get to the line and you are scoring, there is no problem. Yes, I get it. When you're watching it live, when you're watching a player do it against you, it's frustrating. I hate when a player foul baits against my team. But if you have a great scorer on your team, it's very likely that they do it too. But because of that, people like to use the other stat, effective field goal percentage, which is another stat that takes threes into account, but it doesn't account for free throws. I've broken it down like this. Field goal percentage is your pure shot making ability. Effective field goal is your shooting ability. But true shooting is your overall scoring ability and how good you are at getting the ball into the basket. No matter how you do it, because at the end of the day, the name of the game is putting the ball in the basket. Now, if you like this video, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. If there's any stat that you don't like that you want me to look into, let me know. I don't like assist to turnover ratio. If this video does well, I'll probably make a video on that too. But please make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're liking. I appreciate y'all. I just recently hit 500 subscribers. I ain't uploaded a video in a while, but this is something that I feel like I had to say. But I appreciate y'all so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribing. I'm out. Peace.